Hey there, welcome back to Wine Time. Wine Time is the best time, in my opinion, and this show is all about wine education and keeping it cool and a nice laid-back approach. My name is Erin Swain, and I am your host and sommelier. You can find me on Instagram at surfingsom. I am an avid surfer and a sommelier. Please give me a follow, shoot me some DMs, let me know what you think about this show, what you'd like to see on future shows, or if you have any questions or wines you want me to talk about. I'd be happy to hear your feedback. So today is a very special day because this is the Thanksgiving wine episode. And Thanksgiving wines are super fun. And you can really have a lot of fun with diversity because the Thanksgiving table offers so many cool flavors and just a time for family to get together. And your family probably has different traditions than every other family. So bringing wine into the mix brings happiness, joy, and I'm really excited about this Daou Vineyards that we're going to talk about today because it is by two brothers and they just want to bring people happiness with their wine. So Daniel and George Daou make beautiful wines out of Paso Robles, and that is in California. And yes, I'm pronouncing it correctly. They do not say Paso Robles. Let's get started. So for Thanksgiving, the first thing that comes to my mind and the first thing I really like to recommend is one of my favorites, not just a summertime wine, Rosé. Rosé is a subject I have talked about many, many times, and I love the expression of rosé. I think rosé can be drank all year round, and I think Thanksgiving in the fall, especially on days where it's Indian summer, you don't know what you're gonna get, or just as an aperitif, rosé is amazing to start off and to share with your family. Also, a great turkey wine, cranberry, if you want to switch from white to rosé at dinner, this is just a go-to. So I have the Daou Rosé, and the Daou Rosé is made with Grenache Noir, 95%. So these winemakers are actually influenced by the south of France, where they do Grenache rosés. So you'll see the color, super, super light. And I think, in my opinion as well, this is the grape to use for rosés. These are dry style. They have beautiful acidity. And I think for a rosé, definitely Grenache-based rosé are the biggest crowd pleasers. And that's the most important thing when you're thinking about the table, you're thinking about a big dinner. It's a crowd-pleasing wine. So you can always say a Grenache rosé is what everyone likes. There's a lot of other rosés, and hopefully in the future I will do an episode on rosés and taste some of the other fun wines they're making with different varieties. But for now, these guys have been heavily influenced by the south of France, and they are making a beautiful rosé at their vineyard with winemaker Daniel. So, gonna give it a try. And I really love the decorative bottle with their logo. It just kind of looks really, really pretty on the table. It'd be a really nice gift wine as well. And actually, as I look at the color of this wine, in the bottle it looks a little darker, super, super light. If you blind tasted someone on this wine, they might even think it's a white wine. That's how light this is when people think they don't like rosé. Oh my gosh, the nose of this wine is so nice. So on the nose, immediately, I get hints of strawberries, I get white peaches, I get a little bit of rhubarb, and I get a little bit of lavender. So there's a lot of floral elements and just really, really, really pretty fruit notes. And rosé just is beautiful and pretty like that. I'll be interested to know what soil type is here. A lot of minerals screaming from this wine, a lot of acid. I talk about that all the time because it's important to know where you taste acid on your palate. And it's on the side and it's on the front. But this one actually has a little bit of weight in the middle on your center palate. And so this wine is a beautiful food wine. This would be an amazing Thanksgiving wine for your turkey dinner. The cranberry sauce, the stuffing. Instead of a white, if you need another option, this rosé will be a beautiful Thanksgiving wine to share with friends and family, or to gift if you're just bringing something over and popping around and doing different things this holiday season. The next one I also chose is going to be the Daou Chardonnay. This has been barreled in oak. It is a screw cap, so remember, pretty easy to take off. And this one is 100% Chardonnay. Oh man, I love my Chardonnay. The color, this is a 2019, so this is only 1 year old. These wines can age for quite some time actually, and you'll notice with white wines, they'll get darker with age, and red wines will get lighter in color with age. So if you ever see like a really dark straw color in a Chardonnay or any white wine that's just really dark in color, you think, whoa, what's going on there? That should be immediately a little indication that this wine probably has some age on it if it's turning that color. And color is a really cool component for wine. This one looks pretty bright and grassy and has a beautiful straw color. On the nose. Okay, they're using French oak in this wine. So these guys are real traditionalists. Obviously, they like French style wines since they made their rosé in that south of France style. And this Chardonnay already on the nose smells Burgundian to me, almost reminiscent of something that would be in Montrachet. It has depth on the nose. I'm getting some character and vanilla, but really, really, really pretty. Yes, these wines are exquisite. I'm really excited about these wines. So this wine has a beautiful lush mouthfeel. This wine screams, I need food. I think this for a white at Thanksgiving with your turkey, with your mashed potatoes, this Chardonnay has structure and it will cut through some fat, and it would be an awesome wine. If you're looking for a white wine, have this with food, have this to start off. If you're starting off with like, I don't know, a shrimp cocktail or just like a cheese board, this would be a really fun wine to pour. If you're looking for reds and whites, this Chardonnay is beautiful. It really does drink like a Burgundy. That's a compliment, but I tried to stick with American wines since Thanksgiving is an American holiday. We want to use American traditions, but with winemaking based in antiquity, it's so great to adopt traditions from people that have been making it for hundreds and hundreds of years, and I think that's what Daniel and George have really got here. So I'll be curious to find out, and I will ask on the next episode what clone of Chardonnay they're using. They might be using a clonal varietal from Dijon or from a Dijon clone somewhere in Burgundy. So it'll be interesting to see, and I'll fill you on that next. But definitely so far, these two picks, untasted, I can confidently say awesome Thanksgiving wines. Really, really excited. I am going to move on to the reds now for Thanksgiving, and I chose two different ones. I wanted to go with a big heavy hitter, so we're again going back to Daou to see what they're doing with their Cabernet Sauvignon. I know people like to do all sorts of different wines for Thanksgiving. They might want to do Chateauneuf du Pape. They might want to do Grenache. But the American palate really, really loves powerful Cabernets, and they like them in California. So if you have someone who adores Napa Valley Cabernets, I think this Cabernet is going to be really, really fun and showing really well with a lot of probably bright fruit, and it's probably going to be a little bit of a better value and surprise some of your favorite Napa drinkers. So coming out of Paso Robles. And I also chose Zinfandel. So this one's actually retails, it's I think inexpensive. It should be under $20. This is Alexander Valley Vineyard, and it is a 2013. So this wine is 7 years old, but Zinfandels are sometimes often overlooked by people because I don't know, maybe because of the dreaded white Zinfandel that came out, which we're not going to talk about while we have this pretty rosé. But Zinfandel is just a really fun medium to full body. There can be a lot of expressions of it. Zin is one of those things, as I was becoming a somm, I noticed was difficult on a blind tasting because stylistically, you can have a Zin that almost tricks you to thinking it's a Pinot Noir. The winemaker can make it lighter, kind of a tomato, would confuse you to be an Italian wine, or they can age the Zin on their skins for some time and then age it in oak, and it can drink more like a Cabernet, like a really full-bodied big wine. So Zins can be tricky. This is a fun one, so it's called the Sin Zin, and it's the Alexander Valley. And I think I'm gonna see what this is like, but with turkey dinners and again, aiming for crowd-pleasing wines, Zinfandel is a very fun variety to switch to when you're trying to maybe not go with your classic Pinot Noir or your Gamay, your Beaujolais. Beaujolais comes out on every Thanksgiving table because it's coming out at that time. But when you're actually having dinner, I think it's important to find some wines that have a little structure and can complement the meal. So we're gonna smell this in here. Let's get these guys out of the way. Color looks nice. Getting like garnet ruby. Oh, cool. So on the nose already, this one, I get some prune notes, like stewed fruits that are really, really nice. And it's definitely like a more jammy, and that probably comes from the sunshine. And in America, and especially in California, there's a lot of sunshine, so a lot of ripe fruit, and that comes across pretty quickly. Now this wine is 7 years old. It would benefit from pouring it in a decanter. I didn't do that, so I'm just gonna swirl it a lot, and then I'm gonna aerate it in my mouth a little bit, as you see me do. Okay, very, very cool. So this wine, I'm getting a little bit of eucalyptus. I'm getting a little bit of some kind of like a Pirozzini green bell pepper. I get some stewed red fruits, and I get a little depth, but it's not overly tannic. So this wine also has beautiful acidity, and it's nice. Look, if you can look at the color, you can see through this wine. So it's a medium bodied, and that's really fun for Thanksgiving because you can confidently sort of recommend medium bodied and pour it for everyone at the table. Even someone that might not love red wines, or they say they don't like big red wines, try Zin this Thanksgiving and see what they think, because these wines have a lot to offer, and I think would go fantastic with that turkey meal, especially if your family does the multiple poultry. They do a ham, they might do a turkey, they might do a turducken. There's a lot of like cool things that people are doing with food now, and sort of trying to outdo each other with what's on the table. And since there is such a smorgasbord, I know one of my favorite things is a sweet potato souffle that the recipe came from my aunt, and we make it every year. It's almost dessert-like, but it's kind of like making mashed potatoes, and you take some coconut and crushed pecans, you whip eggs into the potatoes, and then you put that in there, and then you make this crumb topping. Really, really fun, very desserty, but also not overly sweet, so it's a fun mix on the table. And then like for my family, we always have classic cranberry, mashed potatoes, gravy, stuffing, and let's see what else. I mean, in the morning, my mom is already making, well, she has the bird in the oven very, very early, but my mom makes the best Thanksgiving dinner, and her sausages and onions and celery that are cooking before she makes the stuffing, oh my gosh, that is what I try not to pick on all day. So here we have our Cabernet from Daou. This is Paso Robles 2018. I think the other reason I'm really, really excited about this wine is because I interviewed Fred Dame. And Fred Dame founded the American Court of Masters Sommeliers. So that's something how I became a sommelier and fostered growth and education for a lot of American sommeliers, and did a lot for the wine and the hospitality world. So Fred is actually an ambassador for this vineyard. And in my interview, we'll find out how that came. But obviously, someone with his resume and experience is really exciting to hear why he is working with this company and obviously believes in the quality product. Oh my gosh, the nose on this wine. Okay, immediately, I'm gonna do the color thing again. I'm not sure if it's easy to tell. This one, definitely more tannin structures. You can't really see through it, but you're getting a lot on the nose. Really, really, really deep fruits. And it has this sexy, subtle thing going on where I just already can tell it's gonna be velvety in my mouth. And here I'm gonna try. Oh my gosh, I am so happy to open this wine today. This wine can open up, I could use maybe an hour and could probably be decanted. It's a really, really beautiful wine. It's a little bit tight right now, but you can tell all the way. This wine is perfectly balanced. This is a Cabernet for Cabernet lovers. There's vanilla spice in here. It is just a beautiful, beautiful bottle. The alcohol and the fruit is perfectly balanced. There's a little bit of nice acidity coming through. This is a real food wine, and this winemaker knows what he's doing. Oh, alcohol is 14.5. So this is the other one I am recommending for your Thanksgiving table when you have some people that enjoy Cabernets as their everyday and what they want to drink with dinner. So this wine, another Daou wines. We have 3 Daous, a fun Zin, and hopefully making more memories and more family traditions even more fun, because that's what wine does. And it is a super fun subject to talk about.
So we have our upcoming Thanksgiving, and I'm just curious about your Thanksgiving wines that you like to enjoy or bring over to people's houses for Thanksgiving.
So, it depends what you're having. Obviously, if you're having turkey, which is very traditional, I love a good Chardonnay. A good, like one of our sturdy Chardonnays. We have 3 Chardonnays we make. We have a Discovery Chardonnay. We have a Reserve Chardonnay, which I would tend to favor. It's got not buttery, but more creaminess, and it can handle like turkey and other things. And we have an estate Chardonnay, which is very high end, and all three Chardonnays would do very well with that. There's also a wine called Chemin de Fleur that I make. That is a blend of Grenache Blanc, Roussanne, and Viognier. And I love it with turkey and the pumpkin and all the servings with it, and the creamy potatoes or whatever you're having basically. But that goes very well with that. So I tend to favor whites for Thanksgiving. However, I've also been known to go toward Pinot. Even once or twice I did some Cabernet Franc, which I felt was really nice with the turkey, just really accentuated the flavors. But that's kind of where I like around Thanksgiving. Sometimes we may have some hams, like honey hams, and then that's a little bit easier to go toward the Pinot and a little bit easier to go towards even a Cab. But if you're sticking with turkey, I tend to like maybe Cab Franc, but definitely Pinot and white wines.
Awesome. Now I'm excited to try this guy that you sent.
Bodyguard.
Can you tell me a little bit about this wine?
Yes, this is a beautiful wine, and I'll tell you some background on it. Why did we create this wine is the question. So to assess objectively the quality of a wine, it's good to look at it objectively, not subjectively. And subjectively, there's nothing wrong with that, but you could have 2 critics, for instance, taste the wine. One critic may say, well, this is a very dark wine, beautiful flavors, I'm going to give it a 95. Another critic could look at it and saying, well, it's okay, I find it to be a little bit light, but here's an 89, right? It's very subjective. So let's look at the quality of a wine more in an objective way. Objectively, you have to measure what's called phenolics. Phenolics measure 3 things. When you take a glass of wine, a red wine especially, there are 3 things that you do. First thing that you do is you look at the color. The second thing that you do is you smell the wine. And the third thing that you do is you taste the wine. And based on how the taste is, how the tannins are, how they're integrated, they'll tell you if the mouthfeel is disjointed or balanced. They'll tell you if the wine can age a long time or not. Because remember, with the wines that have tannins, like most red varieties besides Pinot Noir, tannins are the reasons why the wine can age well, not acidity. When you're dealing with wines like white wines or rosés that don't have any tannins, or with Pinot Noir that has very little tannins, then acidity plays a bigger role in the ageability of the wine, which is why, for instance, a Riesling from Germany can age 40, 50 years, there are no tannins, but the acids are really high and the pH is probably 3. So that's what holds the wine together. So looking at this objectively, higher quality wines, especially what I would call cult wines, tend to be associated with higher phenolics, as long as the winemaker is not messing up and is over extracting the tannins, because that can happen. With high phenolics, you can over extract tannins and you go to taste the wine and you're like, okay, I don't like this. All that tastes is tannins. You don't want that either, right? So as long as the winemaker can do that, a higher phenolic wine tends to be a superior wine. This is why cult wines, if you've ever had some of these cult wines that sell around, the first thing you notice is, wow, look at that intensity, look at that color, right? It's just very intense. So my brother calls me one day, he's in Saint-Tropez, and I'm in the middle of harvest, knee deep in my grapes. He called me, he goes, I've got a challenge for you. And I go, what's the challenge? He goes, can you make a cult wine that anybody can afford? I say, I love this challenge, let me think about it. So that's when I created Bodyguard. Let me tell you about this wine. In an era where many red blends are loaded with sugar, color, ultra high alcohol, this has none of that. This is a naturally made wine. The only thing that was made to use to make this wine are our native yeast and some nutrition for the yeast. That is it. There's no color added or sugar added. No, the wine is bone dry. It's very rare. But what's more important is I picked 2 varieties that normally are never used as a standalone. Like you will rarely find a Petit Verdot wine that's 100% Petit Verdot. The same for Petit Syrah, even though, by the way, Petit Syrah is actually called du Rif in France. The word Petit Syrah doesn't even exist. It's what California growers decided to call it when they saw it for the first time because it looked like Syrah, but at smaller grade. But if you go to France and you tell somebody, oh, I love Petit Syrah, they look at you like, what are you talking about? It doesn't exist. The grape is called du Rif. And it's grown in south of France mostly. So it's not actually a Rhone wine. It's more of a south of France wine. So these 2 wines, I picked these 2 varieties. And over the last 10 years, I've created a special technique that's based on my palate that analyzes phenologically 3 times a day the phenolics of a tank that is fermenting. Now that's very important to do because when a wine is fermenting in tank, nobody can taste the wine to find out if the tannins are balanced or not. Why? Because you've got carbonic acid, you've got residual sugar, you've got must, you've got all these things. It's impossible to taste the wine. So my winemakers have to wait for the wine to finish to determine, well, did I over extract tannins or not? So what I did is I created a special technique that is based on my palate, knowing whether wine is balanced. And I track the phenolics 3 times a day when the wine is fermenting. And that allows me to balance out the tannins so they're always balanced. So I took those 2 varieties, which are known for having a lot of phenolics, a lot of color, a lot of tannin, a lot of aromas, right? And I applied my technique to them. And the result is a wine that is probably in the 0.1 percentile in terms of phenolics on the planet. And every wine measured, we measure over 600. And it's affordable. It sells for the 30s. And it's 100% free run. We don't even use press. Wow. So it's made like a high-end cult wine. And I tell people that is the closest thing you can do to experience a cult wine like that's affordable for every day.
Oh, that's super cool. So my final question for you is, what is the future of Daou? Do you have any fun projects you want to share with us, or what you got in the pipeline?
Sure. I mean, we're always innovating. If you come to our tasting room, you'll see that every couple of years we change everything, change furniture, because we never want to be a place that that doesn't keep up with what's going on in the world. So we're always trying to improve. Same for the winemaking. However, there are a few exciting projects that we're working on. One of them is our Patrimony winery. So we have a very high-end label called Patrimony, which has received really high ratings from every critic. And there's a 3-year waiting list to get the wine. But it always gets the highest ratings in the entire, pretty much Central Coast on a year-to-year basis. So we're finally bought a beautiful property right adjacent to Daou Mountain. And we'll be building the winery, starting construction next year, hopefully. So very excited about that. You'll have to come visit. It's going to have a restaurant as well and a cheese cave. So as well as a cave. So it'll be very exciting. We also bought a beautiful property by the ocean in Cambria, overlooking turquoise waters. And we hope that in the next year or so, we start construction on creating a tasting room. We call it Daou Ocean. So when you come visit us, you can actually come to Daou Mountain and have the mountain views, or you can go to Daou Ocean 20 minutes away and have the ocean view. Oh, so
Super
So we're
cool.
working on that. Yes, that should be very cool. And you know, of course, there are a lot of other. We're doing a lot of pop-ups. We did a pop-up in Mammoth last year. It was a wild success. We're looking at doing some in Colorado as well, in New York, and a few other places. So it's a way to make really our brand known to a lot of people. So those are some of the exciting things we're working on.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me today. And next time I
A
see you,
pleasure.
we'll be out in California.
I hope to host you there. Thank you. Cheers.
Until next time, this is Wine Time on LTV. Cheers.